In House of the Dragon, many Targaryens are shown to be living, but by the end of Game of Thrones, there will likely only be one or two left. Did Game of Thrones have scenes that referred to House of the Dragon? Moreover, what can we expect to be the outcome of House of the Dragon after the first season? Who would possibly die? And will there actually be a dance of dragons? Stay tuned and find out. First up, which Game of Thrones scene spoils the House of the Dragon ending? This Game of Thrones scene ruins the finale of House of the Dragon. Joffrey Baratheon, of all people, had to go and wreck everything. With Game of Thrones' unprecedented success, HBO has no plans to abandon Westeros anytime soon. Even though many prequels and sequels were planned, just one has been produced. This Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon, is a fantastic show. Set many years before the events of the first series, the new drama chronicles the lives of the Targaryen family's forebears during their bloody civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons. House of the Dragon makes frequent allusions to the original series, including an opening sequence that details the years leading up to Daenerys Targaryen, Emilia Clarke, the introduction of the pivotal Cat's Paw dagger, and a central focus on the prophecy of ice and fire, which predicts the events of Game of Thrones. However, since the events of Game of Thrones haven't transpired yet, there are no genuine spoilers here. As a matter of fact, House of the Dragon is sufficiently different from Game of Thrones that there is little room for crossover, notwithstanding the Easter eggs hidden for fans. No matter who makes it through House of the Dragon, they will all be dead by the time of Game of Thrones. Therefore, the prequel can't contain any spoilers about that show. However, the inverse does not hold. Game of Thrones has officially spoiled its prequel series by mentioning the Dance of the Dragons. And yes, there is a point where Game of Thrones reveals how House of the Dragon will ultimately end. So, which other scenes in Game of Thrones refer to House of the Dragon? All the characters in Game of Thrones are familiar with the events detailed in House of the Dragon because of their significance to the history of Westeros. Rhaenyra and Aegon's story is utilized to establish the universe because no one in the original show anticipated a prequel. The Dance of the Dragons is referenced several times in Game of Thrones. However, one scene sticks out because it reveals the person's identity who will die significantly in House of the Dragon. As expected, Joffrey Baratheon, Jack Gleeson, drops this bombshell on us as a spoiler. In episode 4 of season 3, titled "And Now His Watch is Ended," he guides Marjorie Tyrell, Natalie Dormer, through the Great Sept in anticipation of their upcoming wedding. Joffrey, who is giving the tour, talks about the brutal killing of Rhaenyra Targaryen, Emma D'Arcy, with relish. Joffrey tells the audience that the queen was murdered by her half-brother Aegon II, Tom Glyn Carney. Her young boy watched in horror as his dragon devoured her. Furthermore, he mentions that her body parts are still inside. Being one of the main characters in House of the Dragon, this may surprise readers who haven't seen the show's conclusion. The series' inevitable conclusion will involve the horrific demise, and because of Joffrey, even non-readers won't be caught off guard. An unexpected character talks about House of the Dragons. Shireen Baratheon, Carrie Ingram, indeed talks about what happened in House of the Dragon, but it's not a massive spoiler, as some of the other characters have done. Stannis, Stephen Delane, inquires about his daughter's reading material in Dance of Dragons, episode 9 of season 5. Shireen narrates the succession struggle between Aegon II and Rhaenyra, claiming that each believed they should rule, and their war divided Westeros. Shireen provides a synopsis of the events, rather than specific details to avoid ruining the prequel series. She says that the Targaryens never fully regained their control, which is important information to know by the ending. Having summed out the conflict, Stannis then poses the question that has plagued many a House of the Dragon reader. Who do you support? Shireen's response, "It's all the selecting sides that made everything so horrific," is likely the biggest spoiler she delivers. House of the Dragon's upcoming second season will focus on characters picking sides. Therefore, it's likely that this kind kind of tragedy will occur then. But it's not much of a spoiler because Shireen didn't explain what that meant. So, what similarities between the series are a greater problem? Though these allusions shed light on the show's trajectory, the most significant influence Game of Thrones has on the new season is the obvious plot connections. Based on George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, a companion novel meant to deepen the experience of watching the original series, House of the Dragon hints at what's to come. Both shows center on a queen who tries to pass off her illegitimate offspring as legitimate heirs to the realm and the ensuing wars. House of the Dragon and its sequel, Fire and Blood, both foreshadow the consequences of Targaryen's madness. The novel follows the Targaryen family throughout history and depicts numerous members, including Daenerys, who suffers from mental breakdowns. Sadly, Rhaenyra's story ends similarly to that of Daenerys. Both ladies are murdered by a blood relative who is also vying for the crown. Even more significantly, for the House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones establishes Westeros' opposition to a monarchical queen. There will also be many parallels between the characters of Game of Thrones and their ancestors from House of the Dragon whenever that book mentions a house that plays a significant role in the show. This was undeniably the case upon introducing the Lannisters in House of the Dragon. This trend will only intensify as Kragan Stark is introduced in Season 2. Fans of Game of Thrones speculate that the show's prominent greenseers of White Walkers may play a similar role in House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon will always be compared to Game of Thrones because both occur in the same universe. More explicit references, though, have sparked discussions over which show to watch first. Some viewers who are worried about spoilers have tried to fast forward through the problematic segment while watching or rewatching Game of Thrones. You may, of course, avoid the blatant spoilers, but the similarities between the series are too numerous to ignore. House of the Dragon is not ruined by spoilers, even if you know what happens at the conclusion. As it turns out, the show has gone in a different direction than the novel, using the book's unreliable narrators to shock viewers even after they'd already figured out the ending. Finally, how did House of the Dragon end, according to the stories in Fire and Blood? At 52, after ruling Westeros for 26 years, Viserys reportedly passed away. Then, the Dance of Dragons, the civil war between the Targaryen dynasty, started, which ended with Princess Rhaenyra sitting on the Iron Throne for 6 months. She flees King's Landing and is captured after seeing the deaths of many of her children at the hands of the Night King during the storming of the Dragon Pit. Alicent's son, Aegon II, gives her to Sunfire to eat. The Dragon Dance doesn't kill Queen Alicent. According to the canonical writings, she goes mad and eventually dies of winter fever in her quarters in the year 133 AC. After Laena Valerian's death, Prince Daemon married Rhaenyra. The couple had 3 children together. The body of Alicent's son, Aemond, who was killed when he jumped from his dragon during the battle above God's Eye, has never been located. It is believed that Corlys Velaryon committed treason and is currently imprisoned. When his men learn of his arrest, they desert Rhaenyra's army, and after he escapes from Dragon's Landing, he is set free after being imprisoned by Princess Rhaenyra. In exchange for Alicent's support of King Aegon II, Corlys arranged a marriage between Aegon III and Rhaenyra. He lived to a ripe old age and then passed away. Corlys's wife, Rhaenys Targaryen, is a member of the Council of Rhaenyra's Blacks. Meleys is where she confronts Aegon II and Aemond during the Dance of the Dragons, who were also on dragons. When Rhaenys' dragon, Meleys, passes away, it is assumed that Rhaenys has also perished, even though her body has never been located. 3 years after Joffrey's birth, Sir Qarl Corey murders Laenor Velaryon. Based on the novels, Qarl killed Laenor out of envy or at Daemon's behest. In the series episode, Laenor pretends to be dead so he and Qarl can escape Westeros. The 3 sons of Rhaenyra and Laenor, most likely Sir Harwin Strong, are killed at the Dance of the Dragons. The trio of Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey Velaryon, the oldest son of Alicent and Viserys, Aegon II, is acting as king. His legs are handicapped from the burns he sustained during the Dragon Dance. At 24, he died from poisoning orchestrated by Larys Strong. Helaena, the sole child of Viserys and Alicent, marries Aegon II. Their children are are named Jaehaerys, Jaehaera, and Maelor. At the Dance of the Dragons, Jaehaerys is killed and Helaena is kidnapped. It was Helena's own decision to end her life. At the Dance of the Dragon, Aegon II is supported by his younger brother, Aemond Targaryen, the second son of Viserys and Alicent. In Above the God's Eye, Daemon is responsible for Aemond's death. Sir Otto Hightower was one of the first to die when Princess Rhaenyra seized the Iron Throne from the Greens. He was beheaded and died painfully for his attempt to alter the Iron Throne to favor his grandson. Unfortunately, guys, that is all the time we have today. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Till next time, cheers!